We're really excited today to have Kam Wheeler on as our guest on our Ever Onward podcast. Kam is the president and chairman and owner of American Construction Supply. You've probably seen their vans around. They have locations all over Idaho. It's a great Idaho company, American Construction Supply. And Kam, his leadership with Jared, his brother, I'm sure we'll talk about today, has taken it to kind of the next level. He's also a CEO of KW, Kam Wheeler Ventures, a platform designed to help others achieve their aspirations through consulting, coaching, and development. He's also big into football. I'm sure we'll talk about that and giving back. He has the Hawk Football Foundation. Kam received his Bachelor of Science degree from Brigham Young University, Idaho, and a master's in engineering from the University of Alabama at Birmingham, where he graduated at the top of his class. I can go on and on and on about Kam. Great community leader. He's really that next generation leader here in the Valley. Known by all, but very much an honor to have him on today to talk about his business. Before we get to Kam, we're going to have Kakoa Nawahini on doing the Alquist update. Kakoa is one of my partners here, has been doing a fabulous job in our build-to-suit market and leasing, and it'll be fun to hear from Kakoa before we hear from Kam Wheeler. How's it going, buddy?
I'm doing well. How you doing?
Hey, I was just down at Boise State at an event this morning. And so while we were doing it, was a big conference, and I was on one of the panels. But the band was playing outside, the team's practicing. I thought about you when I left. This is the time of year.
Yeah.
Do you miss it at all?
All the time, especially with this recent injury. I miss it all the time. But yeah, this is go time. August is the month.
Yeah, they're going to be good this year, right? What are you thinking?
I think they'll be really good. I think they got a lot of players that are returning, a lot of leaders defensively and offensively that'll help. Especially with the coaching change. I personally love Coach D just as a human being, but as a coach when he was there, there's not a better guy to follow and to play for and know that he cares about you. So I think they're cool. Primed for a really good season.
Yeah, you got him. They just the news yesterday, breaking news about Jeremiah getting a new contract.
Yeah.
Chris Peterson was in town.
Yep.
I mean, it seems like it's hitting on all cylinders just in time. Well, that's a great connection for you. I know that allowed you to meet so many people, and we're lucky to have you here as one of our partners. But tell us a little bit about you've been kicking some butt lately, man. You become not just lately. I mean, it's been cool to watch you. You've kind of become our build-to-suit kind of expert.
Yeah, no, it's been really cool to learn from the people on the team here at Alquist and just be able to continue to grow into the role that I've been able to take and work with these groups, like you said, that are build to suit, that are looking for space, that whether it's they need a lease space, they need to own space, they're looking at land and really get creative on what their needs are and being able to meet those needs. And so
when you were coming on, I thought it was a good chance to talk about it because a lot of times people think we just do office buildings, just lease space. But one of the things we do, and it's kind of been your niche now, is take a company that wants to own their own space, that want to develop their own yard and space, and we do that too. And so just getting that word out there that if you are looking for space, we do have locations, we have land, but also build-to-suits where you can own. And those are really rewarding. Yeah.
It's been really rewarding, and it's really fun too. Like I was saying, just being creative and working with these users, like, okay, what do we need? Yeah. What do we have that fits that? And how do we make this all come together in the way that you guys need it to come together? And so it's kind of been what's taken shape over the role that I've been playing here, but it's been really fun to be able to solve those problems and to find these groups that need space, and especially in a challenging time that we're in today, but still be able to make that happen.
Yeah, and I would say what you're really good at is, again, it's our relationships, but it is when you're looking for how do I make the land work? How do I find something that's going to work pricing there? And then how do I build something working with our team internally here, where you have an internal architect with Brad, you have Corey and his team. You just have so many levers to pull to make it deal work. Whereas if you're just going out on your own and trying to figure out on your own, I think there's real value that you bring to by saying, hey, we're going to help you from the moment we shake your hand all the way through site selection, through the build. So anyway, you're good at it, man, and appreciate it.
No, and I appreciate that. I think it goes to speak, like you said, of the people that we have on the team here, from every single discipline we can take you from A to Z and pretty seamlessly and help solve problems along the way. There's just a lot of really good people that we have in construction development on the team that can take these groups all the way. And so it speaks to the people that you've been able to build and the team that you've built here for sure.
Well, you're a key part of it, man. Thanks for coming on.
I appreciate it.
Go Broncos, right?
Go Broncos, always.
Kam Wheeler.
Okay.
This is going to be fun.
This will be fun.
Let's start. I told you I didn't want to start talking until we got on here.
Yeah.
So I got to see you last week. You came with your son. I haven't stopped talking about this kid. 12 years old.
13.
13. Yeah. Sorry, I missed
Yeah.
it by a little bit. Cannon's his name.
Yep.
And so he reaches out to me and says, hey, I'd love to come interview Mr. Alquist about business. And anyway, he comes in, notebook there, but questions memorized, thoughtful. The kid's impressive.
Thanks.
I mean, I don't know what's in the
Thank
water
you.
at the Wheeler house right now, but it was awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
You better be very proud of him.
Yeah, I am.
Articulate, smart, and anyway.
Well,
it was
awesome.
really
Thanks.
cool.
Thanks.
And he's an athlete too, right?
He is, yeah. He loves sports. So getting him to play sports and to do his training and all that stuff, that's not hard. But this summer we put together a project. He and I together talked about, okay, what are we going to do this summer to use your time effectively? So he trains for 2 to 3 hours every day. He has some coaches that he works with. And so he's training sports stuff every day. Then we'll have practice at night. But we put together a project like, okay, what's something that's going to help you develop as a person, that's going to help you get to where you want to go? And so we sat down together and worked out this project. And so he said, okay, I want to interview a bunch of different entrepreneurs and leaders. And so I said, okay, let's start making a list of things. And so he broke it down and said, okay, here, I want to interview these 15 people. And I said, okay, then we need to make questions specific to each one. So then he came up, that was one of his assignments. We had to come up with questions specific to each person he was going to interview. And then he had to reach out. He was responsible to set up the interview and to coordinate time and, work with your schedule and try to make it work. And so
it was mind-blowing. And I think he's done it, to your point, it's a summer project, right?
Yeah.
So he's telling me he's got a bunch of others lined up.
Yeah, so we met with Spencer Danielson. We're working on him meeting with Governor Little. So if Governor Little's listening to this, we're trying to get him in there. But so I think you were probably number 12 or 13 or something.
Incredible.
So
memorized quite anyway. So Kam, long time friend. I've known you for a few years, but what I like about you, and I'll start this way, is leadership. Like, it's kind of been in your DNA, right, the whole time. And you're kind of, as I get older, man, and I just kind of look at the next generation of who's going to be kind of the business community leaders. It is you right there with everybody else that's kind of like taking the reins and next generation. So thanks for coming on today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for
American Construction Supply is your main deal.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about you to get rolling here.
Sure.
So if people that don't know you.
Yeah. So I grew up here in Idaho. I grew up in Nampa, Idaho. So I tell people we grew up 2 blocks from the railroad tracks, downtown Nampa on the corner, 2nd and 22nd, a little 800 square foot house. My parents started the company when I was about 8 months old. So there's this picture of my mom, my dad standing next to this 1983 Toyota pickup truck, and I'm not even a year old, and then my brother was about 2, and that was our family, right? Like, that was our life. Just growing up was very integrated into small business. My parents, my mom did the books and accounts receivable, accounts payable, payroll, everything, and then my dad was running the day-to-day and trying to grow the company. And so that was our life. Like, our family vacations were driving to Idaho Falls, driving to Twin Falls, going to Coeur d'Alene, going to, wherever, as he was opening new locations and doing things like that. And we'd go stay and swim in the hotel pool and get to go order oatmeal or something for dinner at, Schmitty's or somewhere in Idaho Falls. And we just thought that was as good as it got. Like, I didn't know that Disneyland existed. We didn't know, we didn't do stuff like that. Yeah. And so it was just, that was kind of life, and the employees were around all the time, and we were around them, and so it was very much like a,
so it's construction supply, so it's hardworking kind of blue collar people. Like the company grew, meaning from where he started till how many locations are you at now, and kind of talk about just the explosive growth of American.
So we've been very fortunate. Obviously, Boise and Idaho are great places to be at, and with the growth that we've experienced here. My brother and I purchased the company from my parents several years ago, and we've been fortunate to be able to build out a really good team of people that have helped us to be able to grow pretty rapidly. So we're close to 200 employees now, so the company's scaled in a lot of ways. We've opened a number of new locations. We recently just launched a mobile application. We have an online store now. We ship to all 50 states. And then we go do forming and shoring engineering work. We're licensed in 17 different states now that we do that in. And so it's been a great opportunity. There were a lot of great things in place that we were able to, build off that foundation that had been laid previously, but able to make a lot of changes and improvements.
We have a lot of business people listen to this, but talk about, I think people that have taken a company and then grown it, right? There's lots of ways to do that. But one of the things that I think you've been really good at is kind of vertically integrating stuff, like saying, okay, here's the stuff we do already. And talk us through how you've been so successful in doing that and knowing what to do next. Because I think you're also getting a little bit into manufacturing now, which is kind of the natural place to go. Once you vertically integrate services, then it's like, okay, how do we integrate products?
So that's been a lot of our growth. A lot of our growth has been in how do we improve our systems? How do we become more efficient at everything that we're doing? How do we become more efficient in how we're buying things, how all of our processes work internally? How do we become more efficient with converting dollars of output in marketing or, with our team and payroll? How do we convert those to dollars of input in terms of revenue? So we've looked at ways of, okay, how do we improve all those different efficiencies? And then, vertically integrating, saying, okay, there's only two ways to grow a business. You either have to grow the number of products and services you offer, or you have to grow the number of people that you offer them to. And so, we've tried to grow in both those areas to say, okay, how do we reach a wider audience, and then how do we sell more products and services to those people? And so that's what we've, attempted to do, and obviously we've done that in a number of different ways, but having a great team is what it all comes down to.
Biggest challenges to growth, you think, from your opinion, having gone through it?
Capital is one, right? Like capital, I think, is a constraint for everyone, is knowing, okay, where and how should we go deploy capital? Like what's going to give us the best return on our investment? Being strategic about how you go do that. And then your human resources. Like human resources, I think that's one thing that people often overlook. They just think, okay, if you just infused your company with a bunch of money, that all of a sudden everything's going to get so much better. And that's not necessarily the case. I read a lot, and many authors will tell you that a company that's growing any more than about 25% year over year is going to have a number of challenges, not the least of which being your human resources and their ability to be able to even hire new people on and grow and integrate and keep your culture and, all those things that are associated with rapid growth. And so that's been another one. I think that's one that I didn't foresee being as big of a challenge was, okay, how do you get the right people on the bus? How do you keep those people? How do you get them in the right seats on the bus? Because I'm a big believer in, hire character and then train skills and get them into the right position where you need them at. But you got to find the right people first, and that can often be the biggest barrier to growth.
I know leadership culture is a big thing for you, and you already hit on it, but I'm asking a follow-up question. So one of the things that you see happen is when you're small, you got this kind of core group and kind of, hey, the values on the wall are what's in our heart and mind, and we're here and we're all together. And then as that thing grows, especially with other locations, and what are some of the tricks you found within 200 employee organization, lots of different locations, to try to spread that culture, keep that culture, because it's a constant
for sure.
Right?
Yeah, it's difficult. I saw a movie a number of years ago called The Founder, talking about Ray Kroc and the foundation of McDonald's, and that was something that they were constantly trying to overcome, as they were selling these franchises with people putting their own spin on it or changing things or changing the product, and that's real. Like as I remember watching that, I was like, okay, like that's so true, because getting your systems in place, I feel like, is the most important thing, because systems don't take days off. Systems don't get sick. Systems will be, just about anything, but you have to have a culture in place first, right? Like if your culture will feed your systems, and then your systems will carry out your culture. And so
I think that's profound. That is a big deal, because it's almost like that book, Atomic Habits, right?
Yeah.
For personal growth, what are your systems that you surround yourself with daily? It's the same thing in a company, right?
Yeah.
And let's spend our time working on those, because they are more likely to be consistent than relying on an individual to be like your culture warrior or coach.
Yep. Yeah, your goals will fall to the level of your habits, right? And so, putting those habits in place, but making that the culture. And so, there's a lot of things you can do, whether it's, how we dress, the way the buildings look, the culture of what's taught, what's talked about, the systems that you have in place. When everyone comes and logs onto their computer, what does that look like? What are they surrounded with? How do we interact with people? How do the employees interact with each other? There's thousands of things that build a culture, and it's not just like, it's not a sign we put on the wall. It's not just, the colors on a building or the shirts or whatever that people wear. it's thousands of those things all integrated together where people feel loved and valued. And that's really one of the biggest things I think of being able to retain employees is, having been an employee, having been in that spot and been the guy that was cleaning the toilets or sweeping out the shop or, doing any job in the organization, to take it from that perspective and be like, okay, what would have made me feel valued when I was doing this? Like, what would have meant something to me? What would have made me go run through a brick wall? And trying to do those kinds of things.
A lot of times it's simple.
Yeah,
right?
It is.
A lot of times it's like, hey, I really admire a couple leaders that I consider kind of mentors. And I didn't think about bringing him up today, but I kind of missed seeing him. Was Kent Orem with ICCU.
Yeah.
And when I started becoming friends with him, and I watched his route. So here's a guy that grew that credit union. He's got hundreds of employees, and I said, what do you do to stay connected? And he had a system.
Yeah.
Where he said, I have got to stay connected. And he said, right now on my phone, and he pulled up every morning. He does. I mean, that guy would do like birthdays and anniversaries and check on kids and whatever. I'm like, how on earth do you do that? He's like, it is a part of my day because I just want him to be connected to me. And that was powerful. Awesome. That was really powerful. And I think your point is it's thousands of things. It's unique to each company, right? It's unique to each leader. Everyone's leadership's different, but somehow connecting in a real authentic way. Yep. There's just no way around that. You have to put in the work.
Yeah, and putting in the work and putting your money where your mouth is, right? It's really easy. I think every organization on the planet says, we care about our employees, but do you really, right? Like, are you really willing to say, like, hey, we're going to put the things in place that are going to help us recruit great people and are going to help us retain great people? And so that's something that we've done. I mean, even down to, like, our Christmas party, right? We would do Christmas party. We'd go rent out Shore Lodge up in McCall, Idaho, and we'd give all the employees a day off, and they'd all go up there, and we get rooms for everyone and cater a big dinner, and everyone would get a gift, whether it's an iPad or a Traeger or a drone or whatever, right? But everyone got to go have that experience, and their wives can go to the spa and they can go do all that kind of stuff. But it's like, okay, like, this costs me a lot of money to go put on, right? Like, this is a 6-figure Christmas party. And, some people are like, oh, here, we'll give you a $10 gift card and tell you Merry Christmas and hope you have a good day. But, your employees feel that, right?
Merry Christmas, Clark.
Yeah, exactly, right? The Jelly of the Month Club. But, it's like if they really feel like, hey, you value them on top of, everything else that you're trying to do for them, they'll go run through a brick wall for you, right? Yeah. Like, when you feel valued, when someone makes me feel valued, I'll go do anything for them. And so I think that, a lot of organizations, that's just what I've observed. It's like, okay, the ones that I've noticed that I want to be like, I'll treat their people really, really well.
I love that. Let me shift a little bit. So one of the mantras that I like to live by and help others with is that we all have kind of weaknesses. And I think there's a misconception that some people are just natural born leaders. Yeah. And there's certainly something to do with that. I mean, I spent some time with Gannon. He's starting with a little bit of DNA there, right? But what I'm saying is, we also grow and learn, and you said you read a lot. I mean, I think for a lot of people, it's like, you don't cap yourself. Like, whatever, like, you might have, we all blessed with gifts and talents and then weaknesses, and this idea that you can continually be learning and growing as a leader wherever you are in your company, and setting your goals on, I'm gonna spend time this year on this or that or the other. What are some things you do to continually kind of push yourself in leadership for your company, your family, and life?
Yeah, I love that. So I'm a huge proponent of lifelong education, and that's part of the reason why Ken and I took on this project that he's working on this summer. Is I feel like as a dad, one of the best things that I can teach my kids to do is to love to learn. And I went and earned a bachelor's degree, went and earned a master's degree, but most of what I know, I learned on my own, right? I learned it from reading books. I learned it from meeting with mentors and other people that I look up to. I learned it from YouTube videos. I learned it from the School of Hard Knocks. Like, you learn most of what you know in other ways. And it's like, okay, do I have to learn from the School of Hard Knocks on everything? Or can I go learn from other people's failures? Can I go learn proactively from other people? And that's going to save me so much time. Rather than making this mistake for the next 10 or 15 years, I can go read, I can go listen to podcasts, I can go meet with people, I can go find people that are doing things well. Like, I can go, knock on someone's door, reach out to them, send them an email.
Especially in a dynamic workplace, right? I mean, as you're growing and things are changing, and there's ever shifting constraints on a business, and if you can go learn those things and go say, hey, how did you deal with this? How did you do this?
Yeah.
It's powerful, right?
Yeah, and you don't have to go learn all the lessons the hard way. And so it's like, okay, I've saved myself years and years and years of time by trying to be humble enough to learn from other people, trying to observe both what they did well or what, failed for other people and say, okay, I can learn from their mistake and go that way. But yeah, I think that prioritizing learning in your life is something that can't be overstated. Like just having a desire, a hunger or thirst or whatever you want to call it, to always continuously be getting better and to continuously be learning. And that can take so many different forms. I mean, we're on a podcast here today. The information age that we live in, information is so readily available to be able to do that. It's not like, oh, hey, I had to go to a library and get a book. It's like, I'm listening to podcasts on the way over here. I'm listening to a book. I can, read a book in my free time. I can talk and meet with other people.
You can be pretty darn efficient, can't you?
Yeah.
Like
you can.
Think
right?
about,
you can watch YouTube videos. You can follow different accounts that, show things.
I think about like my daily routine and like the kind of this idea of the miracle morning, right? Like starting your day every day and just trying to have this routine. But you can stack these successes if thoughtfully done in the mornings where, it is, hydrate, stretch, exercise all at the same time while I'm putting something in my ears that are going to make me learn, and just kind of setting yourself right, grounding yourself right, can be a powerful tool for anyone. People ask me, well, how do you be more efficient? Well, some of it is just, it's not perfect every day.
Yeah.
I mean, you'll have days you're just like, oh my gosh, my first thing starts at 6 and it ain't going to happen.
Yeah.
But you get that fresh start that next day and you can go at it. But I like what you just said, because I think there are ways, and I think anyone listening could, how can I be more efficient about my days? Because you're going to have to, I think the word balance is probably, I had a good friend of mine say, that's really, we go through these times of life, and sometimes balance just doesn't exist, right? How many kids you have?
Yeah, 7.
7, right?
Yeah, you're spinning a whole bunch of plates and you're just trying to keep them going, right? Yeah. It's like spin that one, get it going, spin the next one, keep them going. This one's falling down. Okay, go spin that one again.
That's really life, right? Yeah. So it's hard to balance in that. But what is possible is those times you do control. Yeah. And usually it's early morning or late.
Yes.
It's make it as efficient as possible.
Maximize it.
Make your drives. I mean, I hop in my car, and every time I hop in, my podcasts come up, and it's automatic now. My Bluetooth's hooked up, and there I go, and it's either some really great country music or a podcast, right?
Yeah.
So I love that. That's really good.
Yeah, well, and I had a few great examples of that growing up. I mean, my mom is a superstar. She's a rock star. Every morning of my life, waking up, come upstairs, and there was breakfast ready on the table, and she was ready to go. Hair done, makeup done. She'd already exercised for like a half an hour. You'd hear loads of laundry going in the background in the laundry room, but it's like, it's, whatever time, 6:30 a.m., and she already accomplished all those things, right? My dad was already up, done his routine, going off to work, whatever. So it became a very natural thing for me. I mean, our family, that was just kind of like ingrained in us of, having routines, maximizing.
Think about the power of that lesson.
Yeah. Oh, powerful, right?
Think about it's that age-old adage of lead always and use words only when necessary, right? Think about the leadership and example of, I know your parents. Yeah. And that over and over again of, okay, the routine, I'm living the routine. Yeah. I'm not telling you, son, this is what you need to do. Yep. Look at what I'm doing and model after that. It's so much more powerful than telling someone something.
No, 100%. Like, the way that you live, the things that you eat, what's normal to you. I mean, like, I love drinking water. I, do that. And so, I just kind of noticed, my son Cannon always has a bottle of water going around with him, pretty much wherever he goes. But, your kids, the people around you, they see your habits and they'll learn from you in that. And so, no, I definitely had some powerful examples modeled to me for sure. I served an LDS mission in Southern California. I remember when I came home and went to school, it, blew my mind that most of my roommates' classes didn't start till, they'd have, a 10 a.m. class or an 11:45 or something like that. And I had a 7:45 a.m. class every day because that was the earliest that was offered. But I would take, 18 to 21 credits every semester. And I just thought that was totally normal. It's like, okay, I'll be in class from 7:45 till 5:30 p.m.
Kind of like, why wouldn't you?
Why wouldn't you, right? It's like, why wouldn't you? And, okay, all my classes are all stacked on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. That way I can work on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And I'm not going to take, one class here, 2 classes there. And being able to be more efficient is what sets people apart. I mean, every really successful person that I know, because time is the one thing that everyone has the same amount of, right? It doesn't matter who you are.
And I think that's I really wanted to get in some of these things with you because I got some more questions for you. But if you think about work, right, you can't just, people say, well, you got to work hard.
Yeah.
Very true.
Yeah.
And that I think is your internal motor and your desires, your genuine, like what drives you. But then the other part of it is efficiency.
Yep.
And I think that's what you can learn, right? Because the world is also full of people that work hard.
Yep.
But how efficient are they?
Yep. For sure.
And how insightful are they? And how where do they put vision in their life? And okay, here's where I'm heading. Here's my plan. Here's how I'm going to go get it. And then here's how efficiently I'm going to do it during these ages in life, which are, they come and go. I mean, you've got some times that, and for me, what I'm going through right now is, I didn't think it would be like this. Now I'm getting older. I've got grandkids and I've got adult kids. And I just thought, I thought it would be different right now. And it's busy. It's like Shannon and I thought we'd have all this free time, and we don't. And I'm like, oh, well, that's fine. It's great. I actually like it this way.
Yeah.
But some of these misconceptions we have about life and time, you deal with, and that's what's.
Oh, there'll be more later on, right?
Yeah.
We won't be busy later on.
And
There'll be time to do all those
living
things.
for the tomorrow is not a way to live.
Yeah.
It's enjoying the journey, right? And really maximizing the journey with the people you love.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more. But being efficient and being intentional with your time, I think is another powerful thing that I remember my mission president saying this to me the night before I left to come home. He said, be intentional with your time because the world will rob you of every second of it if you'll let it. Right. And so like making the decision like, okay, this is what my mornings are going to look like. This is what I'm going to do every day. These are the things that are non-negotiables for me. And then everything else can fill in around that. Right. Everyone gets, fire drills and phone calls and things happen or things you have to take care of. But it's like, okay, what are my non-negotiables? What are the things that I'm going to do no matter what? And it's people that can do those things and do those things consistently for a long period of time that really, set themselves up. And I'm a huge Kobe Bryant fan, but Kobe would talk about that constantly, right? It's like, hey, if I wake up at 3:30 a.m. and I train from 4 to 6, then I rest, recover, have some breakfast.
What was his book?
Go train again.
I love that. I can't remember the name of it right now. He's got a great one, but it's one of his autobiographies that were written. Anyway, the guy was a machine.
Yeah, unbelievable,
The
right?
Mamba mentality.
Mamba mentality, right? Like, 7 days after winning the NBA Finals in 2009, he calls up the general manager of the Orlando Magic, and guy calls up Stan Van Gundy, who's their head coach. He's like, hey, I've got Kobe Bryant on the other line. He wants to come use the facility every day for the next week. Do you have any problem with that? He's like, Kobe wants to use our facility? He's like, yeah, he's going to be down here with his family for at Disney World. He wants to come use the facility every morning. Like, well, when does he want to use it? He says he needs it from 4:30 to 7 a.m. every day. It's like, well, Disney World's like 45 minutes away. He's like, yep. He says he'll be there, but he needs a private gym, with security, blah, 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 whatever, right? Every day, 7 days after winning the NBA Finals.
Stories are legendary,
morning, right?
Aren't they?
But, and you talk about having natural gifts and sometimes not having the most natural ability in any one thing can actually be a blessing, right? Like having to work harder than other people. And that's one of the things, like if I can teach my kids anything, I hope that I can teach them that there's always going to be someone that's more talented than you are at any given thing. But it's, can you learn how to work hard? Can you learn how to maximize your efficiency in that area? Can you learn how to do things that other people aren't willing to do? And from my experience and observation, like that's what sets people apart. They're willing to do things that other people aren't willing to do. And I look back and I'm grateful that a lot of those lessons were instilled in me, but it's like a lot of my roommates weren't willing to go wake up at 7:45 a.m. So they'd already been there at school for 2 years. I graduated in 2.5 years, and I was done, and I had moved on to the next phase of my life, and they were going to be there for 2 more years because they were taking 1 or 2 classes a day. They were just there to have fun. But being intentional with your time allows you to accomplish things that, might take other people a decade. It's like, okay, I can go do this in a year, right? Like, hey, this is going to take someone else a month. I can go do it in 3 days. Hey, this is going to take someone a week. I can go do it in a couple hours. And just having that mentality.
I love that. We have our leasing team here is Mark, Holt, and Kakoa, right? So
awesome guys.
Those guys are great guys, but I love being in a room with them because the other thing, that same mentality you can have individually of, hey, this is how I'm going to get through things, that can translate into your business life, right?
Absolutely.
You get around people like that go, hey, here's the competition, here's where we're set up, here's how we're going to be more efficient. And that was my point. It's not them just saying, hey, we're going to go work harder.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, what's the strategy to work harder?
Yep.
How are you going to dominate your days and your field because you've just outthought and outworked everybody. It's a combination of both, right?
Yep. It's not just like, oh, hey, we're going to spend more time in the office. We're going to be in the office every day from 6 a.m. till 10 p.m. It's like, okay, well, that's not it. It's, okay, how can I learn more? How can I be more efficient? How can I have all the data? How can I be the most prepared guy in every room that I go into, right? I know what they're thinking. I know what their questions are going to be. I know what all my competitors are doing. I know more about my competitor's product than my competitors do. And like that's been one of the things that I feel like in my career was something when I was really young and I didn't know anything. It's like, okay, you know what I can do is I can study and I can outwork other people. And so I know when I go into a meeting to go try and get a project, I can know my product better than anyone else does, and I can know my competitors' products better than they do.
That is beautiful. Think how that translates to your business today.
Yeah.
Right? Just doing that over years and preparing now to say, okay, here's the competition, here's what we do. You add relationships on top of that and taking care of people and having a product that there's no. You get around smart people that know what they're doing, and there's no question why they're successful, Cam. I think that's being around you. It's like, okay, this is a good deal. Let's shift a little bit here. So we've talked a lot about success and background, whatever. How do you train yourself to deal with setbacks? Opportunities, whatever you want to call them, challenges
for sure.
that come your way, either business. And what skills have you developed to kind of say, here's how I deal with it?
Yeah. That's a really great question because that's something that's really difficult, especially for anyone that's a high achiever, right? Like, I mean, growing up for me as a kid, like I had this perfectionism complex that I still deal with and struggle with, where you want everything to be perfect, right? Like you want to think through, hey, I worked through this, I thought through this, I studied through this, I prepared, I had a plan laid out, I went and executed everything perfectly, but it didn't turn out perfect, right? And you're going to make mistakes, or other people are going to make mistakes, and we live in an imperfect world, and so those things will happen. Learning how to handle those kinds of things, because like at first it's like, okay, you're really hard on yourself, and then maybe you're really hard on other people. But as I've learned and grown, about 5 years ago, I started studying Stoicism, and I've become a huge fan of all the ancient Stoics, whether it's Marcus Aurelius or Seneca or any of the others, and learning profound wisdom that's really helped me to see and to know that things happen the way that they're supposed to happen, and that many things are out of our control, but the thing that is in our control is how we deal with it, right? We don't get to pick circumstances, we don't get to pick outcomes, but we get to pick the way that we handle things. And so, that was something where I changed my mindset from, okay, I'm focused on an outcome, and I want this outcome. I want this to happen. I'm going to make this happen. I'm going to create a plan. I'm going to do everything that it takes to try and get this outcome, instead of changing it to say, okay, like, what do I want from this personally, and how can I learn and grow, knowing that things are going to happen along the way, and it's not going to turn out the way that I wanted it to. And when those things happen, deciding ahead of time, how am I going to respond?
I love that. It's almost like you're planning for success, and you have a strategy and you have vision in your mind, like, hey, here's where I'm going. But you're almost preparing yourself saying, hey, it's not going to go like you think it's going to go. So when it doesn't, I'm kind of playing three-dimensional chess to get there right from the beginning, instead of thinking that it's this linear path to my thing. It's just it's a healthy way to go through things. And I think for me too, I think when you go through challenges, it's almost like this magical moment where you say, okay, I see the end, and I don't know how I'm going to get there, but I'm going to work through like 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 scenarios, and then I'm like, okay, great. No matter what comes my way, I've got a pathway, and then that's comforting, and then you're like, okay, now I've just got to be attuned to myself and people around me and my relationships to navigate how to get there. But there's something very freeing about seeing that pathway, and I think that's a great skill. What you just said is I love that.
And I'm not perfect at it. I'm far from perfect at it.
None of us are.
But I'm learning and I'm growing, and that is one thing where I feel like I've made a lot of improvement is, not letting down on my goals, not letting go down on my standards, but to say, okay, this is what I want, this is what I want to achieve. And there's going to be things in here that I can try to foresee. There's going to be other things that I'm not going to foresee, but I can decide ahead of time how I'm going to respond, right? And knowing that everything that happens is part of God's plan for us, and that there are certain things that are going to be outside of our control, but that are meant to help us learn lessons that we need to learn in order to be who we need to be.
I love that. One of the things that we're frankly, when you have adult kids, sometimes it's like you want to be the parent you were when they were little, and you can't. You kind of got to. But one of the
You're
things,
having an adult relationship
yes,
with them rather than a parent-to-child
and it's different. And one of the things I've been learning the last few weeks with some people that are kind of helping us out is this artificial timeline we place on things, just whether it's our kids or our lives or whatever, and kind of saying, hey, no, I'm not going to put an artificial timeline on that. What's important to me. So I'm making these lists of kind of goals, and this is where I want to be, and these are what successes are. But time's kind of not linked to that anymore, and it's been freeing to say, no, it may take longer, but it doesn't change my approach. It doesn't change what I'm going to do. It doesn't change how I'm going to react.
Yeah.
And it's been really, really a cool process for me because I'm looking back at it saying, no, some of those are artificial.
Yeah.
Still achieve the same goal with my daughter, but it's going to just take a little longer.
Yeah. Well, and I think the things that we self-identify with, right? I think that it's very normal and natural in our society to self-identify with a lot of things that are outside of our control, and then we wrap our identity up into like, oh, my son has to be this star player, has to be this person, or I have to be able to tell my friends that, oh yeah, my child got into this university or got this thing, or oh, their life is so great, because my identity is so wrapped up in what happens with my kids.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, like, you're now trying to control this narrative with your kids, and I
tremendous
see a lot of
amount of pressure on them.
Huge pressure, right? And so, like, I've seen so many people's adult parent-to-child relationships, suffer because of that, because they haven't really thought through, like, okay, am I self-identifying with my child's success? Am I self-identifying with what they become, which, what I want for them may not necessarily be what is best for them, or the path that they need to learn on, or the timeline that they need to learn.
That's harder said than done, right?
Yeah,
because you also love your kid and you want to give them these opportunities, and then you're rooting for them like crazy, right? I think back, I'll tell a story about my son. So I only had one boy, and I thought he was going to be Larry Bird, right? Because that's just
love
what
basketball,
I thought. And I remember like year 2 into Y ball, and me calling my dad on the way home and saying, hey, like, we're year 2, and the guy can't do a right-handed layup off his left foot yet. We're in trouble, right?
Yeah.
And my son will laugh at this, but then he became, almost through some just series of events that were just God's hand in his life, he got into music and playing a guitar and becoming a jazz guitarist. And I think back to watching him, like sometimes on stage at these competitions, and watching him just thrive and thinking, man, I'm glad that it wasn't me
trying to force him into what you wanted him to.
Yeah, I'm glad that, and it wasn't my wisdom. It was just some really fortunate people we met in events, but trying to help your kid, but let them kind of grow and be and find the talents that they have. It's an art. I think.
And it's a difficult thing, and obviously you're further down that path than I am, but being able to observe that both in my life and in other people's lives, putting your self-worth in who you really are and in what your divine identity and potential is, I think is a much healthier way of learning to love yourself and learning to have grace and mercy for yourself and allowing yourself to learn to grow. I think that so many people fall victim to their own mistakes that they make, and then they start beating themselves up or think like, okay, I was a failure at this. My dad wanted me to be this and I couldn't do it, and this person wanted me to be that and I couldn't do it. And this person may have all the potential in the world. It's just in a different area from maybe what they thought or what someone else thought or tried to put on them. But putting our value in who we really are, not in just what we do or what we have or what we accomplish. And, I don't ever like telling people when someone asks me, oh, what do you do? What I do is different from who I am. And so, what you do can be a part of your identity, but I don't think it should be all of your identity or even, the largest part of your identity.
Yeah, and how critical, Kam, is that foundation of like the breaking it down to like with your son or grandson or your granddaughter, like child of God, kind of you're loved, you're this, you got all these unique talents and the titles that we all carry, but first and foremost, you're like son or daughter of God, and they love you. And where does that, I know for us, and just like whatever your higher power is, but having some identity outside of the things you are or the things you have, because those things come and go. And when you can kind of go back to something that is comfortable, and then you surround that with a family that loves you no matter what, and it's so foundational.
No, I agree.
And I think it's hard for people to go through these things, but boy, if they can go back to that and feel that love, it's a big deal.
And I couldn't agree more. Like, I love sports. Like, I love sports. I always have. Like, it's just been, part of my DNA like my whole life. Like I've loved sports. I've always been actively involved in it and am still. But like for everyone, for all of us, at some point sports end, right? And like if your whole life is consumed in being a basketball player, being a football player, being a cheerleader, being this or being that, and you have lessons and you work hard and you train and you practice and you go to camps and you do all these things, and so much of your time is spent in this, it becomes really easy to make that your identity. Yeah. And at some point it ends. And then it's like, okay, like what do I do now? Right? Like I know people who's like, okay, their daughter is 18 years old and she's danced 5 nights a week at a dance studio since she was 2 years old. And it's like, oh, well, she loves dance. Like she loves it. It's like, but does she? Or has she just never tried anything else? Like she never did anything else. And that's been what her whole identity has been wrapped up into. And I think that as parents, we often do our kids a disservice by wanting them to be something so bad and not allowing them to try different things or to do or to be something different than what we thought they should be or what we wanted them to be.
Amen. Amen. Hey, tell us about some of the volunteer stuff you do. I know you do some. It takes a lot of time, right? But I know you're pretty into the volunteer opportunities you have.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy how things like that just happen in life, right? It's like you don't plan for or think so many things are going to happen, and they just naturally happen. Like you just make connections and things just work out. And so I was, my son's like 5 or 6 years old, wants to sign up to play football. So I'm like, okay, I'll coach him. And so I start coaching flag football, and next year I'm coaching more kids in flag football, and I'm getting text messages or reach out from parents that, hey, we played against your team, and I really liked your way of coaching. I really liked the way you interacted with the kids. Or, we have a friend whose son plays on your team, and they say they just love you. Like, is there any way we can get our son on your team? And so it just kind of grew from there. So here I am, just coaching football. And I'd coached soccer and t-ball and basketball and, anything because I want to be around my kids. And so if my kids are playing something, I want to be around them. And so I was coaching flag football, and next thing I know, I have like 30 kids on my team, and it's like, okay, well, now we're going to go into tackle. And so we kind of, moved on and moved up, and now I run a tackle football program called the Warriors Football Club, and so we have about 100 kids in our program. We have several different teams, and I have an amazing organization of people that coach and run and administration, and they handle the whole thing and really make it amazing. But our emphasis is on utilizing football as a tool to help prepare young men for life. And that's, what our mission is and what we're based on is if we only help you to become a great football player, then we failed. And we want to help them be great football players and great athletes, but first and foremost, like we want to help them be great young men.
Awesome.
And so, it just kind of evolved from there. And then I got asked to be involved with our local high school. I live out in Nampa, and we live in Skyview boundaries. And so they asked if I'd come be part of the program there, and things just worked out to where things aligned. And so, I've taken on a role that's largely just, volunteering to try and help make it better and trying to help raise money, trying to help create opportunities for kids that maybe otherwise wouldn't have them, or enhancing those opportunities. And so it's been a blessing in my life. It's fun for me, but at the same time, like I find it as a way to be able to try to give things to kids that I wish that I would have had when I was a kid, right? Like, getting a 10-year-old helmet and a 30-year-old pair of set of shoulder pads and, some pants that were passed down and some jersey that had been around forever, trying to find better ways to make kids excited and to feel, I believe in the law of vibration. I believe in the law of attraction, and I believe that if people see themselves as something greater, that they'll achieve those same goals and they'll attract that same type of energy. So if you view yourself as, oh, hey, this is all I'm ever going to be, this is all I am, this is what my family is. And so my hope is that I can help teach kids that you can be whatever you want to be, you can go achieve whatever you want to achieve, and if you believe in yourself and if you believe that good things are going to happen to you, you can go work and go make it happen. And so that's really like kind of the crux of it. Yeah,
incredible.
Like I'm, coaching football and teaching, that type of stuff. But really it's centered around wanting to make a difference in kids' lives and wanting to help give them opportunities that, I wish I would have had and that I wish other people around me would have had. Because I saw a lot of people that I grew up with or kids that I played with that didn't end up going down the right path. And so much of athletics was just all centered around winning. It was all centered around just, the outcome on Friday night or the outcome in the basketball tournament or whatever. But helping them to realize that sports are a great teacher for life, not just to go win a trophy or to go win a championship or something. So
incredible. I can't believe how fast that went by. Yeah. Usually at the end of this, we say, hey, give us some words of wisdom on the way out. But that whole thing was packed.
It was good.
Anything we didn't cover? Sure appreciate you.
Yeah, no, happy to chat anytime, and love the platform, love what you're doing.
Hey, let's do so. American Construction Supply before just AmericanConstructionSupply.com. Maddie, what are they? Let's give just so you can look that up. Getting locations everywhere. You've seen the trucks everywhere. I love the red, white, and blue everywhere.
Yeah, we're very patriotic.
One of the funny things is my grandson Cash. Mm-hmm. He goes to your demo days.
Yeah,
and gets
all the merch. Yeah.
But then he won't take it off.
I love it.
Like he has to wear his American shirt.
I love it.
Like when he comes over to our house, you have to wash it a certain way and get it ready. So
it's one of my favorite things to be around just somewhere randomly, and someone they'll have no idea who I am, but I'll see someone wearing one of our shirts or hats or merch or something, and I'll just compliment on and be like, hey, I really like your shirt. Like, oh yeah, thank you. Whatever. Sometimes they tell me the story of where or how they got it, and
that's awesome.
It's always fun.
So American Construction Supply, and then the football URL for your league.
So it's Warriors Football Club. So warriors.football.club on Instagram. We're also on Facebook as well. I don't know if the websites are live for either of those yet, but
the Facebook.
and then Skyview Hawks football as well as another
that's
one.
Cool.
So and then Kam Wheeler Ventures is my other business for my investment portfolio. So the URL for that's just kamwheelerventures.com. So you can look that up as well.
Great. Thanks. We got to do this again. This was awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you, Cam.
Appreciate it. Yep.